Welcome to the Consulting Leaders Podcast, where we talk about the business of consulting. Whether you're looking to grow your practice or learn from the stories of leaders in consulting, you're in the right place. I'm your host, Guillaume Jouvencel, ex-PwC and co-founder of GHA Marketing. Join me as I interview the best consultants in their niche. Let's get on with the show. Yes, welcome to Consulting Leaders. Let's jump straight into it. What pulled you into the consulting side of performance, education, and, well, now consulting?
Well, the mechanism that drives me forward is helping others, and in particular, helping entrepreneurs and the human condition. So the humanity and authenticity of success, positive psychology, attaching oneself to your own authentic values in the things that you intend to achieve in this world. It all started like that. I think that in performance, making people laugh in comedy, just making them laugh, you recognize that in those moments, they were full of their largest amount of vibrant life, and they were not ruminating about their concerns. You gave them freedom in that moment. And as that progressed on, and I was asked to do more and more consultation, because of that energy that I could bring, I was offered challenges, Guillaume, and people would say, very often they would call me as a comedian, and they would say, well, I have this crazy idea that you can describe managerial tactics to the managers of our hospital systems at the Veterans Health Organization or something like that. And I would say, well, what an interesting idea. And I would accept those challenges. And very often I would say, it would help me to know who you hired before me that failed, because you probably did not call the comedian first. I'm going to assume that you went to your HR department or maybe hired the person that wrote the book or something like that, and that they all failed, and that somebody said, Les is good at things like this. I bet he could help you. And so helping people like that and helping them to feel those moments of freedom and clarity where they can succeed. And I know what that means to everybody around them who watches that success. Now, those people believe that's the way I affect positive change in this world. And nowadays, we focus it primarily on entrepreneurs. Yet that's where the energy came from, Guillaume, is my desire to do that. And the amount of joy I get when watching people in those freedom moments, laughing or feeling enlightened about the opportunities that they have. Yet I can also say in comedy, we were very mercenary. And, the language of comedy is not nice, Guillaume. We talk about killing audiences and tearing them apart and things like that. And so the generosity that shows up is more than the generosity that's being requested. So they go and they sit in your class or your audience to be enlightened. Yet when they start rubbing their jaw, when you're doing an extremely good job, and they start rubbing their jaw and holding their side, and the audience is rocking around like this, you can kind of see in their face that they're like, that's a little too much laughter. My side hurts. I may need to stop. And as a good comedian with plenty of opportunity, or a good instructor with plenty of opportunity, or consultant with plenty of opportunity, you don't stop. You go ahead and give them a little bit too much. That's why they call it killing them and blowing their minds and things like this. It's not entirely nice, yet it's what we love is, can you see the light? Are you motivated? I bet you have a lot of energy to go forward now and do something great, don't you? So that's where all that energy comes from.
I absolutely love that. And I think I agree with you. That energy can sometimes be overwhelming for other people, but that's how we roll. And the idea is to find other people with as high energy as you. I like it a lot. I like the vibe actually. So how do you use that now, Les, to solve problem? Actually, let's maybe start there. What problem do you solve with what outcome? What's the benefit of it?
The problem that we're solving through our consultancy at Rialto Academy, the problem that we're solving is large populations of professionals' education opportunities. The quality of education for the most important entrepreneurial communities that we know of in the world, the quality of education was rather low. And it was low in execution and professionalism. It was low in comparison to media expectations that, look at you here streaming live in a beautiful piece of software. And yet many business professionals feel like they're being punished and sent to the DMV when they go to take their professional education. And the quality of that education was way down in what is best termed compliance. If you don't take this number of minutes, you don't get to renew your license, as opposed to, if you take this education, you will thrive and do better. And along the way, of course, it supports your license. So sometimes since I came from entertainment, I have standards, and we sold tickets and did tours, and I was fortunate to do 7,000 appearances in 15 countries. And yet, every step of the way, you realize you're delivering value. And in the early days, they would actually count your laughs. You would hear the theater owner with a clicker, and they'd count it. When you got a significant laugh, you'd hear them click it while they're walking around the room. And then they would do this crude math afterwards, Guillaume, where they would divide your minutes and your clicks, similar to how somebody may have in the past determined their miles per gallon of their vehicle. And they would come up with laughs per minute. You got this many big laughs per minute. And if you had a good record of laughs per minute, the audience liked you well enough that you could get rehired. So we were always attached to metrics of success, even while doing comedy. We were always attached to what are the metrics of success. And so now, we recognize we need to bring that value. These people bought tickets, got babysitters, bought an expensive dinner, and they expect us to give them a bunch of quality. So the same thing in education. I often picture like the real estate entrepreneur. So the realtors are one of the most prodigious and powerful economic engines in North America, to say the least, and really around the world, are people that transact the land and the homes around the world. And these professionals, I often think of, I think of Sarah Broker, a 51-year-old broker, and that's an avatar for us. And so Sarah Broker, let's say she worked very hard over 10 years to build her business to where they do about $100 million in sales on the year. That might be 15 agents in her brokerage. And she worked very hard and delivered a lot of value to her community, has repeat customers. If you've been there for 10 years, you have repeat customers. So Sarah has victories. And let's say Sarah, her team had a great victory on a Thursday, and they all had dinner together. And then maybe they went home and watched a television show. That television show, Guillaume, was made for maybe $250,000 a week, something like that, has recognizable faces, high quality sound, and all types of media. And then let's say Sarah took her family to the movie theater on Saturday. Heaven forbid she went and watched, I don't know, Tom Cruise hang out of an airplane for $400 million of production. So why is it that when Sarah, who has a business that does $100 million a year and supports 15 families in this example, why is it that Sarah, when she goes to do her professional education on Monday morning, does she feel like it has to be, why did it get so low quality? Why does she have to feel like she's being punished for having gotten a speeding ticket or something, as opposed to seeing the same sort of media quality that anybody expects anywhere else? How did the person doing a good job driving our economy and training other people to do well in business and helping to put people in homes, this very soulful type of business, how did they get relegated to horrible quality of media and compliant mindset? I don't picture the Sarahs of this world that are bringing entrepreneurial advancement to humanity and freedom to entrepreneurs through gig economies and things like that. I don't picture them bouncing around going, hooray, I'm compliant. Hooray, hire me, I'm compliant. I just don't get much excitement out of that. Don't they deserve, just like our comedy audiences deserve, to laugh too hard, to laugh harder than they thought they could, Well, don't our professionals deserve to have a quality of instruction that's going to open their mind to how they can do even better than they had previously thought they could? So that's the similarity that I continue to be driven by. And so we're publishing these classes. We brought up recently to a group of professionals, Guillaume, we said, so there's a mandatory course that all realtors take, has to do with fair housing. And we said, tell me a good reason why a fair housing course isn't shot in a Los Angeles neighborhood by a television crew and feature face that we recognize off of television, like the star of LA Law or something like this. And my example wasn't received entirely well. So I did a second example. How about like one of the amazing actors from a TV show like Family Ties or something about first-time home buying, about people finding their first home? And I got a little bit of response. And then I said, okay, how about somebody desiring to move up to a luxury environment in an urban setting, like, say, CC Babcock from The Nanny? Well, at that point, several of the high-powered executives around me squealed out loud, Guillaume, like little kids, and said, oh my God, I love The Nanny. I can do all the, me and Sarah, we can do all the words to the lyrics. Do you want to hear them? And of course, I don't want to hear them. Yet, can you see the response when they're treated with the respect and when you make references to things that have meaning in their lives? And for some reason, people that preceded us thought much lower about education opportunities. We still feel the opportunity to help them, and that if they enjoy the class and it has memorable things and people that they are happy to be looking at and that have meaning in their lives, maybe even some humor attached to some learning points, then they're more likely to remember them, to maybe say them to somebody else. Once we had to defend an entertaining class in a state in America, we had to defend in court that it was appropriate, that it was humorous. And when they asked me the question in the court, I was able to tell them, Guillaume, that we really thought it was, we understood this to be an education opportunity. And we found that if we said memorable things that made them respond, they were more likely to have some quality education. And I offered that if it wasn't education, if compliance is punishment, I brought a list of recommendations for how we can make it much more punishing. Really, there should be no live action. It should be longer. It should be more boring. They should have to write more things. Matter of fact, why do they forget comedy? Why do they get even coffee? Why do we even give them coffee? Should they have beverages? Are these people not being punished? And so we get to highlight, what we're really there to do. We're really there to add value so that they have a better opportunity of building a thriving business, that we all benefit from better professionals in our world. And these are people with families. And so we really believe in bringing the quality of that media and the metric of success of it works for those individuals. If it doesn't work for that audience, it just doesn't work. I'm sure you feel the same way about your broadcast. If it wasn't connecting with your audience, you would change something, wouldn't you? And so we believe in that.
Quick question, Les. Were you having your friends come to your representation so that they could fake laugh and, create a crowd movement, and they laugh exaggerately? And then, it's contagious. So people just start laughing when they hear claps and laughs as well. Was that a technique back in the days? Or I had no clue about the counter of laughs. That's crazy to me. Then were some people trying to cheat that and bring in people who would fake laugh?
Yeah. I think that, the amateurs have all sorts of tricks, and the amateurs are often playing to rooms of other amateurs. And so they kind of are laughing at each other's amateur learning process more than they're a commodity that's selling comedy. The way it started for me, Guillaume, I kind of skipped all of that amateur stuff. I was being punished in high school. And when they ran out of, I was a little overactive, and I had done some silly tricks on teachers. And so I was being punished, and I'd already won some awards as a performer. And so they angrily punished me by saying a football coach, was going to make me run our school's first talent show. And so I was running this talent show as a punishment, and I wrote 3 jokes, and the jokes were horrible. Yet one joke was okay. 2 jokes were horrible. 1 joke was okay. And I'm running this for this audience. I'm 16 and a half years old, and the record player broke, Guillaume, and the coach said, I'm going to go get the other record player. And he was gone for 13 minutes. And since nothing was going on, and since I respect audiences, I walked out and I spoke to this audience. Someone had to do something, right? So I went out and I spoke to this audience, and I spoke for a few minutes, and somebody said, tell the story you like to tell about this and that. And so I did 13 minutes, and then we got the record player and the show continued. And kind of like a movie, one of the judges of the talent show was a guy who had a comedy job, and I didn't know it. He was a guy that owned a little bitty community theater, and I thought maybe he would be a good judge of the talent show. I didn't know. I was a kid, right? And yet he had a comedy job, and he asked me if I would open the show for a famous comedian 2 days later at a convention center. And I said no. I said, no way. That was horrible, telling jokes that people don't like. And he said, yeah, nobody needs your jokes. But that thing where you talk, if you'll talk like that for 7 minutes, I'll give you $185. And that meant I could quit my job flipping hamburgers at Sonic Drive-In, and I had a car and everything. And so my last objection was, I can't do it because I don't know where to park. And this man had to explain to me that when you're a professional performer at a big auditorium, there's probably a place where they tell you to park. And so I went and I did it. And that was for some famous comedians, and I got paid. So I got paid my very first time out as a teenager. And while I was there, I was requested to do other jobs. And I was very fortunate. The 7,000 jobs that I did, I was requested to do. So I never had to go through that painful amateur phase that we see so many people go through. I had it a lot easier than that. Yet we had a very different attitude, because if the audience didn't do well, we were concerned about paying for our families. Right? That's very different than an amateur who asks questions like, do you think this is funny? Do you think that's funny? And we'd say, that part where the audience gave you money and rocked back and forth, rubbing their face, that was funny. And the part where the audience doesn't show up and they just stare, or the ones that are there just stare at you, see, that's not funny. And so I got to skip a lot of that amateur stuff and go straight into business. I really like business, and I was raised by entrepreneurs, and I right away sold comedy right away.
Sounds like not too bad of a life. Who is it? So back to Rialto's MLS. Who is it that you're helping exactly implement those education programs? Who do you build education partnerships with?
Rialto Academy is focused on adding massive amounts of value to associations of professionals, especially in the real estate space. So the vertical that we're primarily in is associations of realtors and also MLSs. And we're the education partner of the Council of MLSs. We help some of the big companies in the MLS space, like Cotality. We're proud to work with them. We also are the education partner of NAR Technology, the National Association of Realtors, AMS product, and some other things like that. And the reason we work in the real estate space, Guillaume, is at one point, one of the big real estate companies brought me in to speak on my book, Plays Well with Others. And so I spoke at their national convention and did a humorous speech about entrepreneurial achievement and made everybody laugh and think about entrepreneurial achievement. And then they asked me if I would rewrite their library of training, if I would look at their training books and help to refresh those. And I agreed to do that for a couple of years. And they introduced me to a young man who was getting his PhD at the time. And that's now my partner, my business partner, Jonathan. That's where I met him, is they introduced me to him. And he and I took a consultative look at the realtor situation, and we saw some challenges they were dealing with, and we decided to write two courses at the same time, one on recruitment of talented individuals and the other on retention of those talented individuals, because they challenged us with that. And so we said, yeah, we would do that at the same time. And 9 months later, so it took us 3 months to publish those first courses, and 9 months later, that company won #1 in the world in agent count. And so I sat down with my business partner, who's my business partner now, Jonathan. I sat down with him and I said, wow, who knew realtors? Look at that. Realtors study briskly, avidly. They study all year round. And when you offer, so we desire to help entrepreneurs. And it turns out if you help entrepreneurs through real estate, you can go much faster. The idea that we got those results in 9 months, and that it was even a metric that was tracked in this world, right? That gave us a way to get traction and help entrepreneurs through helping realtors. And you know, we have about 500,000 realtors on our education campuses now through associations and MLSs. And when we get over 1 million realtors on those platforms, and now we're publishing in Spanish as well as English, and soon we're adding French, Hindi is on the horizon, and things like that. And as we do those things and we get well over 1 million realtors growing their businesses through our education systems and supporting their licenses through these association and MLS campuses is what we call them. We provide them an education campus with a library. Once we get over that, we'll probably help some other professional industries. Yet that's what we're all about, is adding value to associations through education strategies. They're going to increase revenues those associations can use to offer services to their members, increase member satisfaction because of that. And because we have nice, modern, automated systems and production, it also reduces staff labor.
I love that. Who's the decision maker, Les, of like who decides to work with you and to, you know, implement a, I don't know, self-education or center of education in their real estate business? Like, who do you have to talk to?
Primarily, it's the association executives. There were about 1,300 association and MLS executives, a little bit more than that. And they're the people who are going to sign the contracts and assign the money. And very often their education director has been looking for answers. And as they looked around, they didn't find what they were looking for. And then Rialto Academy showed up and we filled that space. So we're currently #1 in localized realtor education, which is an interesting thing to say, because that's one of the errors that we found when we arrived in the space. Was an association would say that they were concerned with increasing the value of their membership. They were concerned with being engaged with their members, and they were concerned about the quality of the education that they offered. And then we would ask them, well, what are you currently doing? And very often they would say, well, we don't offer anything online or on demand. We offer a national service, and they go to the national service. So realtors are famous for walking around saying real estate is a local business and real estate is a relationship business. And then they would tell us they sent 100% of their people out of state and their money out of state, and the members had to pay more money to go get this generic education. And we showed up and we said, shouldn't that all be you? Shouldn't that all be local? Shouldn't that be your branding? Shouldn't you be talking about what's going on locally? And you can use our national instructors, or you can, we like to use local instructors as well. And so localized, let them see information about their own area. Let them be in class with the people that they do business with, and keep all that revenue there in the association and provide that value themselves. To us, these were very simple things, Guillaume. They were very, very simple things, yet getting the entire industry to go from shortcut answers that weren't providing local information and relationship, and getting that, like turning a cruise ship at mid-sea. And so, we're on our way. We have 500,000 so far, and we have most of the top 5 or 7 organizations in North America. And so we're making a lot of progress. Yet that's what we desire. We desire that member to receive local information from their association. This way they can find out about the great services the association offers and keep the money local, and keep the engagement. Those members on average, when they're told to go grab national training on their own, their average spend is $130 a year that went out of state and didn't come from their association membership, right? And their average time is 12 hours. So the associations, before we arrived, the associations were giving away 12 hours a year of engagement, 12 hours a year of service, and $130 per person. And we changed that.
How do you, so this is a very niche, narrow problem for a niche. So real estate is not a very small niche, but like that's so particular. So um, how do you market? What has worked for you, Les, to attract the decision makers, build the brand within the real estate space, and become the number one platform for this? Like, what has worked for you, marketing wise?
Really, I think very few things have shown themselves to be the most powerful, Guillaume. It is a relationship industry, and trust is very important. And so we were very fortunate that we got to help a couple of organizations. We kind of talked them into it. They needed some things, and we talked them into it, and that went well. And so they introduced us to somebody. It kind of grew the same way my comedy career did. We said yes to one client, and we did a very good job. And that client got us another client and another client. And also our team is heavily focused on character. We're heavily focused on culture and character. We greatly enjoy authenticity. Some of the courses we're proud that we created are a little funny to us, like bringing Spanish training, Spanish language training to, say, Texas and Florida. Gosh, you would think that was already happening, I bet, right? Yet instead, we had to do that.
You would think.
Yeah, and people would say things about Texas like, that's really great that you provide for the minorities in Texas. And we'd have to point out to them that Spanish speaking is not a minority in Texas. There's actually more than 50% Hispanic people in Texas. Yet, that's okay. We got here as quick as we could. And so yeah, relationship and then character. We don't spend that much money on advertising. We're not very fond of that. We stay in communication and provide value. We go to events with our clients, and we look for opportunities to help them. And we listen really well, and we enjoy their authenticity. So, there's a class we created in Massachusetts that's very fun. Maybe the client said, "Oh, you won't be able to provide all of our classes because some of them are so unique." And we'd say, "Well, we love unique. We love authenticity. What are you talking about?" Yes. And they'd say, "Well, we have a course that no one else in America has to have. It's about marine-based lead paint." And we'd love to create that. Now we're looking at a seismic appraisal course for Oklahoma because they have so many small earthquakes. And we love those uniquenesses. Those uniquenesses are very important to us. We have a great client in St. Paul and Minneapolis. We have some great clients up there, and they have a Hmong community, Hmong, the Asian community. And we think that's wonderful. We love authenticity. And
one of those courses, Les, how do you, when you don't have any knowledge of it, right? You discover it as you talk to the clients. How do you get the knowledge to be able to educate others on this very topic?
Well, some of it we've amassed over time, and then we're very curious. And so we find subject matter experts and we interview them, sometimes a great many subject matter experts, so that we can make sure that we understand exactly what's going on. And then we're going to represent that content and build it out and support it with some media and some structure. Our instructional designers are award-winning. They're really good at organizing content. We have our own media production facility and directors of digital entertainment, digital education. producers who capture in systems like you're using here that are higher quality than Zoom and things like that. And
Yes.
so we find those experts on the front edge, and we help to develop them, very often developing their goals to bring this information to the larger community.
Big thing for you, Les. What's the so you mentioned going from 500 realtors, 500,000 realtors to a million. How are you going to accomplish that? Like, what's the challenge that stands in front of you that, if you walk around, you're going to be able to reach those million realtors, apart from entering the exceptional French markets, of course. What else are you going to do to get there?
Well, part of it is through expansion into other countries. We will be opening, we have an office in Canada now. We have an office in Toronto, and we're very happy and excited about opening business across Canada. We also are developing business in Latin America, probably Mexico first, yet Costa Rica and Argentina, they all have emerging markets that deserve support. And so we'll move into those. Like you said, France is certainly an excellent candidate, and we will have French skills because we'll be producing. We have two types of French already. We're producing Southern Louisiana, and we're producing Montreal. And, so then there's also French, as you know, Guillaume. And so we look forward to that as well. And so part of it is expansion. Part of it is also, though, we desire 2/3 of the realtors in North America. North America has the models that the rest of the country, the rest of the world admires, like the MLS system and the strength of our data and whatnot. So while there's plenty of things that are challenging in the North American real estate industry, it is the model for the rest of the world. And so we're bringing them on continually. We're lucky that we have close to 100% retention. And so we'll get there as quickly as we can, Guillaume. We have primarily the large associations that have adopted our work and use our services. They're going to give us probably 700,000 of the realtors, and then another 300,000 or so of the North American realtors will come from us opening up markets that didn't have an association or an MLS powerful or influential enough to bring us in. We're going to serve those areas ourselves. We don't compete with any of our clients. So if we can find a great partner in an area, we build it around them. And if we can't find a great partner in an area, well, we open up the state ourselves. And so we've begun to do that. So we will get the large aggregated clients that have a lot of influence. Those are the most important accounts that we serve. And yet we're not going to leave the rest of them out of it that are in areas that don't have great partners. We're going to open it up to them as well.
Yes, ladies and gentlemen, Les, if people want to find out more about you, see what you do, where should they go?
Well, I am Les McGehee. That's spelled with one S, Guillaume. Les is spelled with one S. That's LESMCGEHEE. And I am not hidden. Go ahead and take a look. Ask your chat bot to tell you about Les McGehee and see what you get. My book, Plays Well with Others, is coming out in multiple editions starting in 2026. The first one being Plays Well with Realtors. And so the original book will be re-released as a second edition, and then the specialized editions will be released. And if you're in the real estate space as an educator, or if you desire to really supercharge the power of the education that you offer your membership, go to Rialto Academy, rialtoacademy.com. Take a look there. And I'm happy to help anybody, Guillaume. I'm happy to help. You're really good with consultants. And since we're mission-based consultants, Guillaume, if somebody has the correct intentions and they desire to help large groups of professionals at a really high level, they can have a little free consultation. Okay, we're mission-based.
Nice.
The dollar is not our boss, it's our ally. All right. And we are mission-based. And so I am happy to help anybody who is serious moving forward in that space.
We'll put all the links in the description. What I can say for sure, Les, is that you've gained at least one connection on LinkedIn from this interview. Me, we are now connected. And for anybody listening, you want to go and check out Les on LinkedIn, the photo is fantastic, Les. Thank you so much for coming on Consulting Leaders.
Thank you so much, Guillaume. Thank you for what you're doing to help promote quality consultation in this world. Entrepreneurs are brave and have chosen a brave adventure that their family is watching, and they deserve our support.
Thank you so much for this. Words to live by. Thank you so much, Les.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining us on this episode of the Consulting Leaders Podcast. We hope you learned valuable lessons on how to grow your practice and take your business to the next level. Make sure to subscribe and leave us a review wherever you're listening to this show so you never miss an episode. To apply and be a guest on the show, click the link in the description. See you next time. How was